Hello, welcome again to Unveiling Truths. I made mention of something that it could be other people out there that didn't have a clear understanding as I didn't when I was young, and that was about the wheat and tare shall grow together. And it tells you about how a sower sowed seed, and some evil person came along and sowed tares among the seed. And tares are very similar to wheat in its early stages. So when it was reported by the servant that someone had done this, well, the wise sower stated, well, let's just wait until they become grown, completely mature. Then you'll be able to tell them apart. Now, I'm going to show you images of wheat and tare so that where I didn't have a clear understanding in my youth, and I understand now, there may be others out there, young people or even older people who aren't familiar with farm types of agricultural, work. So you wouldn't probably know what tares is. So we're going to learn what tares is now, so that I can cover this stone that I neglected to get to earlier because I was really kind of tired. So I'm going to get out the way, and we're going to go to the screen, and we're going to look at wheat and tare, and then we're going to go into scripture so that we can get into Abraham, so that we can learn about Abraham, the patriarch of the Hebrew Israelites, the original individual that God chose to establish his perpetual or forever covenant with. So we're going to touch on some things that we kind of went over, into some things that we didn't go over, and hopefully we'll wrap Abraham up so that we can go forward into how God's prophecy that he prophesied to Abraham, how he set it up, made it come to pass, and he did it for a reason. And we're going to talk about all this. So I'm going to get out the way so that we can go to the screen so that you can view what I'm talking about, if that'll be easier. Sometimes it's easier for me to learn that way. Okay, so just a minute. Okay, on the screen, as you can see, there's a photo image of wheat. This is wheat. This is how wheat appears. And over here is what the tare looks like. The tare is very similar to wheat. There's a difference. I can tell a difference. But sometimes when you're pulling up something that's the exact same color and that have the same stems that go up, and at the top you can see that they do differ. I can see that they do differ at the top. So that is what wheat and tare looks like in its early stages. But as it matures, as it develops, we learn that it takes on a well, let me show you another image of wheat and tare as well. It's a little smaller image, not as close. But as you can see, this is the wheat and this is the tare. And they both are long green stemmed plants, if you want to call them plants. Very similar, especially if you're trying to pick them up and you're in a hurry trying to sort them. You could easily pull up the wheat instead of the tare. Now the tare is kind of like weeds, something that's not even necessary, you don't need, it's not going to benefit you. So these weed looking plants being sown or being planted, or seeds thrown among these, and this is the wheat, where we have wheat bread, wheat cereal. We use wheat in a lot of ways. It's a nutritional, and wheat is nutritional. So we have like white bread, we have wheat bread. So wheat is something that's good for the system. So anyways, this wheat here, as we can see, there's a lot of them, and they are similar to tare in color and in their lengthy shape as they grow. Now we're going to look at a picture of what tare looks like when it becomes fully grown or mature. Now this is a picture of tare in its mature state. They look very different now. The coloring's different. This one is more of like a goldish beige. No, I don't know to call it a brownish color, but it's more like an oranger type of color. This one turns kind of like a pretty dull, I don't know to say it's the kind of grayish color, but it's very different now. You can tell the two apart. They're a lot easier now to distinguish and to decipher from one another in their early stages. And this is tare, as we can see here, tare, and this is wheat. And so this is like the weeds, and this is like the nutrition that's beneficial for our bodies. So I just wanted to go over that so that you would understand the difference between wheat and tare, just as I did when it was first introduced to me. Then we're going to go to we're going to go into Abraham now. Let's see. Down here. We were talking about the tree. Oh, I lost it. Okay, let me see if I can find Abraham's tree. It's amazing how things go so awkward when you don't want them to. Okay, I'm going to have to go find. If you recall, I had brought up this tree here. This tree kind of helped us to know about Abraham's seed, and get that just small enough so that you can view what I'm speaking of. Okay, as we had discussed earlier, the root was Abraham, the bottom. This is Abraham here, where it's just the name, but he represents the root of the Israelites, of the Hebrews. They originated from the covenant person that God established his covenant through, which was through Abraham. So from Abraham, even though Abraham had 4 fathers and 4 mothers, but the covenant was established with God, or from God, or with God through Abraham. That's why we're starting from Abraham. Then in the middle we have his son, and Abraham had a lot more kids than you might be aware of. We're going to go in scripture and I'm going to show you that. But he had Isaac, who was the sole recipient of the ongoing covenant. It was only established through Isaac, none of his other children, but Isaac alone. Then Isaac had Jacob. He also had Esau as well. Jacob was kind of a snot, and I have to tell you that. Jacob stole his brother. His brother was out in the fields, and he became so just famished, and he just needed food to sustain him. And this Jacob was really a little snot. He had his own brother sell him his birthright just for some food. You would think that a brother would willingly and open-heartedly help his siblings. You know, and I don't know, it could have been some sibling rivalry going on. I know I've had that in my family, jealousy and hate and all types of stuff that outsiders told me of. So that's amazing when people you think are your loved ones, and really they're your enemies. And so it took me a while to believe it, but after a while it was evident. So, but anyways, this is Jacob. He stole his brother's birthright. Then because Isaac favored Esau, and Rebekah, Isaac's wife, favored Jacob, and it wouldn't really be with the J, but we know that no J's exist in Hebrew, Greek, Arabic, or Latin, or ancient Arabic. But anyways, Jacob wronged his brother twice. He made him sell his birthright for some food. Then he turned around again, and where Isaac had the blessing for Esau, because he favored Esau because of the vintage that Esau made. He loved his food, so he favored him, I guess strictly for that reason. I really don't know. But Rebekah favored Jacob. Now, one thing about women are very, very witty, very intelligent. I believe God just gave them this just wit about them, because and they're strong. We women are very strong. I mean, a man might abandon ship, but a woman will hang in there and toughen it out. I mean, strong. God made us durable. we may physically be weaker, but when it comes to intellect, when it comes to being strong and problem solving and multitasking, and women are on the mark. They're no joke. So Rebecca favored Jacob. So of course wit kicked in, because she wanted Jacob to come out to be the blessed, not the curse. Obviously she knew some things beyond what probably she should have known. Sometimes women do eavesdrop. Sometimes women do pay attention. They can read into things. God gives them an intuition about things. So she knew it was necessary, if Jacob was going to be blessed, was to get this blessing. So where it was really meant for Esau, she disguised Jacob, because see, at the time Isaac was so old that his eyes became dim. He could only go by his other senses, smell, touch, So she took advantage of that. She went out and got some goat's hair, put it on Jacob, and fixed the cat. And while she got busy, obviously, because while Esau was out doing the hunting, she was preparing the meal that she obviously already had set up. And then she got Jacob prepared. She disguised him, so that when Jacob went before his father Isaac, he went in disguising himself to be Esau. But Isaac wasn't completely without intelligence. Now he smelled him. He said, "You smell like the fields, like Jacob would, and your voice sounds like Jacob's, but you have hairy arms like Esau." So he went on and went against his first better judgment, and he went on and blessed him, despite the fact there was 2 out of 3. The voice was Jacob's, the smell was Jacob, but yet the arms were hairy like Esau. He should have went with his first senses. Then Esau would have received the blessings. But it's what God's will to be will be. So obviously, maybe God's will was for Jacob to have gotten a blessing, being that he was the younger. Esau, they were twins, and Esau was born first. And when Jacob came out, he grabbed his heel, the heel of his foot, but they were twins. But Esau came out first, so that made him the eldest. And then they were different in appearance. Esau was red and hairy. Jacob was kind of just but they were different even in appearance. So they were maternal twins, not identical twins, but maternal twins. But anyways, so Jacob gets the blessing, and no sooner than Jacob leaves, Esau comes in, and Esau was so thoroughly upset that he was going to actually kill his brother once his father passed. But his Rebecca, with her intellect and inner wit, she knew she could. Women can look and sense things. A married woman, she knows when her man is cheating. She knows when something's not right. She can look at him and read him. After a while, she will be able to read him like a book. That's an intelligent woman, because she has been learning. She's witty. She's got to learn. When he bails out, she doesn't bail out on those kids. If she's got mother wit, she's going to start. It's going to make her stronger. It's going to just increase her intellect. And she's going to be a troubleshooter and a multitasker. I'm going to tell you, she will do it all. People will look at her and wonder, how possibly can you do this? And the reason how I know is because I went through that. I loved someone that was my dear heart, and I never thought we would end, but we did. Later he tried to come back. It was just, some things, once you break a trust, it can never, you can forgive that person and you could befriend that person, but to let them back in your life, knowing that they can have a heart to mistreat you, that would be foolish, in my opinion. Some women do. They stay with a man because of a child, and then the man sticks them with a whole lot of other kids, and they still break up. Now where she had one child, now she's got 5 or 6 of them, and she's still not with the man. Women, please understand. A child is not going to keep a man. So don't get out there and think, oh, well, I'm going to have his baby and we're going to be together. It doesn't always work that way. One thing I've learned about men in my experience, they are selfish. They are self-centered. And I'm not saying all men, but from what I've observed, they will tell you anything, any lie. They will, I have lived it. They will tell you anything to get into your world. Try to gain your heart, then try to take your life and mold it the way that they want it to be, which is always in their interest, in their better interest, not yours. So understand, ladies, when they tell you they'll never leave you, expect that they more than likely will. When they tell you that they mean this, that, and the other, don't pour your whole heart into believing that. Because 9 times out of 10, when he see another skirt pass by, his little wandering, weak eyes is going to follow that other skirt, especially if you and him have a disagreement. I feel so sad that our men are so weak, or the ones I've experienced, I'll just say have been pathetically weak. So women, be careful. Don't believe the deceit that they say, because they are, in all honesty, a lot of them are just hoish. They just hoish. And AIDS is out there, and don't get yourself in a predicament to hold on to a man and he's out there, messing with other women. Then next thing you know, you're wondering how you contracted something that cannot be cured or whatever. And women, never conflict over any man. If this man has cheated on you with another woman, you and her should not be the one to conflict. If you want to jump on somebody, both of y'all need to get together and beat him down. But do not be fighting one another over a man. And in my opinion, what I would do is just leave him alone. I promise you, if you have been a good woman in his life, there's too many doggish women out there that will make him come back running and begging and pleading to get back in your life. And if I were you, I wouldn't take him back. I would be nice, I would be kind, but to that's just like a dog returning to vomit. It speaks in the Bible how a dog returns to his own vomit. A pig, after you clean the pig, he goes right back out and wallow in the mire again. So if he has hurt you once, he'll more than likely hurt you twice. And understand that if he becomes verbally abusive, well, physical comes next after that. If a man gets to calling you vulgar or degrading or just mistreating you, leaving. Because number one, if he loved you, he would cherish you, not mistreat you, not abuse you, not neglect you. He would be good to you. So if you have someone that's not treating you right, guess what? You don't have to stay in that situation. If you're not married to him, and even if you were married to him, in my opinion, if I'm being mistreated, I'm going to leave. I'm not going to be with anyone that's going to treat me bad. And that's my take on that situation. And I'm hoping that a young woman that might be in her 20s or early 20s, that this might help you. Sometimes decisions are hard to make, but sometimes they're necessary to make to protect yourself and your children. Sometimes children get caught up in the middle and they are horribly abused. Some kids have even been murdered. Because mothers are so, they want that father in his life, but if he is dead weight, get rid of it. You will learn how to do what needs to be done, and you'll find out in the end you were better off without him. So and plus when you got God on your side, he will help you. He will help you through it. Because, like I said, we can have the best intentions. Our hearts can be sincere, but that doesn't mean that the man or the other person's heart is sincere. You might love him, but it's a mutual thing. If you're in love and he's not, you got a problem. You have a big problem. So don't be so quick to open your heart. Get to know the person. Take out the time to learn them, because some of these people are treacherously evil. And I have ran into these people that will try to take your life and make it what they want. And when you were as busy as I was, and I'm not the type that's going to chase behind a person and stalk a man and all that craziness, I just leave them alone. Just walk away. Leave him alone. When he comes back, do not take him back, because you're returning to the vomit again. You can speak to him, say hello, be friends, at a distance. Don't give him, I don't mislead them to believe that they have a chance to come back in my life, but I will be kind to them. And believe me, that's God helping me do that. I kid you not, that's God that is helping me to be good to those who have mistreated or lied or deceived or whatever. That's God that's helping me to be a good to them despite them. So I'm hoping that somebody can absorb some of that and that will help you. But anyways, let's get back on the subject of Abraham. Now Jacob, Rebecca favored Jacob, so Rebecca made sure that Jacob was the one that came out on top. Okay, so Jacob, once he pronounced all the blessings upon Jacob, and it's so much material to read, but if you go into Genesis, you'll be able to research some of this information. I'm just trying to brief through some things so that we can keep it moving. So Jacob, afterwards, he had Zebulun, Dan, that's Issachar, Judah. I can't hardly see that. Let's see. Oh, okay, Naphtali, Benjamin. Then we'll go Reuben, Simeon, Dan, Gad, Asher, and I left Joseph last because Joseph was who God used as a tool to set up things for his people. And Joseph went through some things. But he was lifted up. He became second in command beneath Pharaoh himself. That's just how much power Joseph had in the end. Then he had two sons, one Ephraim and one Manasseh. And he was, I believe, given an Egyptian woman to marry, and he dressed as an Egyptian, and he basically was an Egyptian for 40 years. In Acts, it tells you that he was raised up in the wisdom of the Egyptians. And 40 years he started going to see about his brethren. So obviously he knew who he was, or it was kept a secret between Pharaoh's daughter and him. But anyways, and also he had a daughter named Dinah. She's not on this chart anywhere because Dinah was a female, and as I stated before, back in those biblical days, females were not liberated. They really didn't have a voice. They didn't have much of a say-so at all. They basically remained virgins until they found a man, married him, took care of the house, took care of the kids, and then if that husband passed, depending upon, because some of them went through the brothers. It is one woman that went through every brother that the man had, and then the youngest brother, it would have been a long time because he was really young, but she went down the brothers, because the brothers that were not married, they had to take, she didn't have any seed, so they had to take on the responsibility of their brother who left who's now, or at that time was deceased, and to take on the responsibilities of the woman. Now also they had what's called polygamy. They had a man could have as many wives and concubines, which is kind of like mistresses, that they could afford. And so those rich men, Solomon, my goodness, he had like 700 wives and 300 concubines. So, my goodness. But anyways, this was something, their culture. So and also with the Israelites, these 12 Israelites, including Dinah, they could only marry amongst one another, like royalty. Royalty well, you know, it might have changed over the years, but at one time royalty, like Queen Elizabeth and her seed going down, it used to be a time that they married strictly they married cousins. Now Abraham, he married his half sister Sarai, whose name became Sarah. Both Abraham and Sarai father was Terah, but their mothers were from different women. He might have had more than one wife, you know, or it could have been maybe with one of his concubines, because we have to understand that we're going to find out with the Israelites, his first wife Leah, that he was tricked into marrying, she had more kids than any of them, but she was not he wasn't drawn to her. I guess she was not attractive, but he really loved Leah. Okay, wait. I'm sorry. I'm talking about, this is Isaac I'm thinking of. And so anyways, no, I'm sorry. That was Jacob, because Leah was his first wife, and then he had, goodness, I just said her name and can't even think of it. But anyways, and they had handmaids. Their father Laban, when they became married, gave them handmaids, women that kind of was like their maid. And when they weren't able to bear, like at first Leah was bearing, and you know she was giving him sons, and the other one, which he really loved, and I believe it was Rebecca, was it Rachel? Okay, Rachel, I'm sorry, Rebecca, Rachel. Okay, yeah, now Rachel, she was barren, and so she gave her mistress to be Jacob's wife, so that she could have children through him. So she had some kids through her handmaid. So Leah did the same thing. She said, okay, well, I'm not really making any more kids. So she did the same thing and gave Jacob, which was Israel at that time, her handmaid. So Jacob's 12 sons, including Dinah. Dinah was Leah's, his first wife's daughter. She's the only girl out of all 12 of those boys or men. And so, excuse me. So, let me see. I lost my train of thought. Okay, so Leah had the most kids, and then they both gave their maids to produce more children. It was really like a heated sister rival. I mean, they were really just basically competing with one another to give him children. I mean, and that's basically what it was. They were trying to give him see, if a woman was barren, I mean, that was really the last thing any woman would want to be, knowing that she would be the mother raising the children. If you can't make children, then it almost makes you worthless to a man, because he wants a son to carry his name, his lineage to continue through. So a barren woman would not be able to do that. And so that's kind of how that was. Even though he was really favored, he really loved Rachel. Rachel was barren, and then after a while she did eventually have Joseph. Where's Joseph? Joseph, and also Benjamin. Now, one thing I have to say that was really wrong in my opinion. Jacob, out of all of his sons, he favored Joseph. This was before Benjamin was born. He favored Joseph, and he showed it. He made it openly clear who he liked the most. See, Benjamin was from the woman he loved, and he treated him better than the others. He even had given him a coat that he had made for him of many colors. And when he gave him this special coat and none of the other brothers received any kind of coats, well, that stood out clearly in their mind who he favored most. And you have to really be careful of that, even though they they despised Joseph. Because on top of that, Joseph was a dreamer. He had dreams, and he could also foretell dreams. He could also interpret dreams. So that even added fuel to the fire when Joseph started telling his family about his dreams, about them giving the moon, the sun, and the 11 stars, giving homage to him. And his father had to rebuke him. You mean to tell me I'm going to bow before you? So, but then he later kind of kept that on the back burner, like, wow, that's, and so they staged, the brothers got together and they called him by himself away from his father, threw him down in a pit, and certain of them wanted to kill him. That's just how much they hated him. So be careful. Number one, you have to keep in mind that when you have a child, the child that comes into this world, irregardless as to whether it's a male or a female, whether he's hyper or whatever the situation, you have to understand that's a child that did not ask to come into this world. When you brought this child into this world, it is your responsibility as a parent to be good to him, to be nurturing, to just give him everything you can above yourself. When you're raising kids, it's no longer about you, it's about them. And it is vitally important to treat them equally, because if you take two children and you give them some fruit drink, I didn't believe in giving my kids, I had one son and one daughter, I didn't believe in giving them Kool-Aid, anything with sugar, anything that would not be at all beneficial to their system. So I would give them fruit drinks. But one thing and they were 10 years apart, but when I had my niece come over to visit with my daughter, I was very careful to give them both equal amounts. Because even though my niece was not my child, she's my child if she's in my home. I'm loving her just like I love my son. So when he gets fed, when I fed one, I fed the other. When I took one, I bought, like my daughter also had a friend that would come out, inner city young lady, I would let come out because we lived out in a rural country area, out real close to Six Flags. And it was a treat for her to just get away from just that inner city life constantly. So that was a close friend of hers, so we let her come out for the summer. That means I had to buy 3 of everything, because that's just the person I was. I had 3 bikes, 3 of everything, so there was no disputing, and I would initial them. Each bike had their initial, and it was their responsibility to take care of what has their initial on it, because that's theirs to play with. And if you break yours, then you don't get to play with theirs because you didn't take care of your own. So it was certain ways that I did things, but God blessed me to be in a position to have been able to do that. And I was a single parent. So I'm not going to tell you that I had a man there helping me. No, I was a homeowner for 15 years on half an acre of land in a prestige area. I mean, he blessed me with an overabundance. I mean, I had 4 vehicles in a truck, and I was one woman raising 2 children alone. That's how I know that God equips us with specialized get up and go, because we do what we have to do. We don't let people keep us down. We keep the ball rolling. So I kept the ball rolling. I worked full-time, went to school part-time, raising 2 kids, and still had all that going on. Even painted my house, did my own landscaping. I did work even outside of all that. So, I braided my daughter's hair. So I made time to do, but I was very organized. When you are very organized, my house stayed immaculately clean. I didn't have to, and I taught my kids to be clean, to be organized. So my life wasn't a lot of work if you organize. But the thing is, no matter who stepped in my home, they were all treated like my child. They all got the equal amount. When I would pour them something to drink or cereal or whatever, they got equal amounts. Because one thing I know about kids, the first thing they do, if you give them fruit drinks, you know, they liked apple juice and other fruit drinks, you know, was the cocktail, I mean, not the cocktail, but it was all kind of fruit drinks we would drink. But one thing, and I'm highly observant, but one thing I noticed, I can, if I even thought to pull somebody's a little uneven, the first thing they'll do is look around at each other's class. I mean, it was absolutely no joke. And I knew, make sure everything is equal, because kids pay attention. And if the one you give the least to, he thinks he's loved the least. Even though you may do everything else for him the same, if you start bending it, don't think that they're not going to know. So when they came to my house, everybody was treated the same, and everybody loved coming to my house whenever I could bring them. And it was no problem. I love kids and helping them and interacting, you know, teaching them and all kinds of stuff. So it wasn't a problem for me. But understand, parents, kids pay attention. And a lot of this child-sibling rivalry nonsense is as a result of the parents. If you treat those children equally, there'll be no reason for those children to hate one another, because they will be treated equally. You're not showing any favoritism. When you show favoritism, you're going to create problems. Okay, so Israel clearly and made it known through his actions that wait. Oh, where's Joseph? Joseph up here. That he favored him above all the rest of his kids. And Benjamin, he was not born yet. And that's how they grew to hate. They grew to hate Joseph. And I mean, they really hated him. They put him down in a pit. They wanted to kill him. So, but when some gypsies or some sellers came by, they sold Joseph to those sellers, and they took Joseph down into Egypt. Now Benjamin, at this time, he was probably a little bitty boy, I'm thinking, real young. His mother, Rachel, died giving childbirth to Benjamin. She called his name Benoni, but Israel chose to name him Benjamin. So Joseph goes into Egypt. Now we're going to get into Joseph, but I want to finish up some things about Abraham. But that was kind of jumping. I put my my carriage before the horse that time, but you know, sometimes that happens. Okay, so I'm gonna go to some scriptures, and I want to clarify something also with I want to clarify something also, because I tend to notice a few things, and I don't really want, I'm just going to put up a picture just to have something up while we kind of go through scripture. I'll put this this here. No, let me, yeah, okay, well that's the scrolls. That's fine, we can put the scrolls up, because this is what the original photophonic Hebrew or pictograph Hebrew, whichever you choose to call it, was originally written in. But I believe this here, it doesn't appear, I can't really tell, but more than likely it's going to be basic, or I'm sorry, modern Hebrew. But I'm going to go to some scriptures. I just wanted to kind of Okay, I want to clarify something because see, I'm pretty observant and I'm not really wanting to use these yet, but I am wanting to use this. All right, let's see. I'm going to go to Genesis. I want to recap on something real quick. I'm going to go to Genesis 11. Okay, I'm going to go down to Genesis 11:32. I want to okay, I just want to go over something real quick. Because as we read this, even though there are some contradictions in Scripture, I'm not going to hold this truly as a contradiction. This is not really a contradiction. Because Terah took him out of, okay, let's read this. And Terah took Abraham his son, and Lot the son of Haran his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife. Now, notice here it says Sarai, his daughter-in-law. Okay? But really, that's Terah's daughter, not his daughter-in-law. She was his daughter first, and for longer, then she became his daughter-in-law. She married her half-brother, but she was his biological daughter. So that really should have just stated his daughter or his daughter and daughter-in-law. But that sounds as if when you read it, and Terah took Abraham his son, and Lot the son of Haran his son's son, that's his grandson, and Sarai his daughter-in-law. That's almost to say that she's not even his daughter. But anyway, it says his son Abram's wife, and they went forth from Ur of the Chaldees. They went from the land of Ur of the Chaldees. Where's my pointer? Okay, they went from the land of Ur of the Chaldees. That means the Chaldees owned that land, but they just resided in it as being Hebrew Israelites. And then it says to go into the land, and then it says to go into the land of Canaan. They were on their way to the land of Canaan. And they came unto Haran and dwelt there. So they didn't make it to Canaan. They went to Haran and they dwelt there. So now I'm going to go to Genesis 12, because this is not really a contradiction. But there are contradictions, but this is not one of them. So I want to go back and recap on this, just so that you will know that this is not one. It says, now when we pay attention to this, now we know that he took them into Haran. They were on their way to Canaan, but they ended up just dwelling in Haran, which was not quite going all the way into Canaan. It says, now the Lord had said to Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make thee a great nation and bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. Let's go further down. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curse thee. Now pay attention to this part that I'm about to read. It says, and, right here, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. Have you noticed? Well, once you find out who the Israelites are, you will pay attention to it. But everywhere God sent his Hebrew Israelites people, that land became a strong land. It became a powerful land. When the Hebrews was in Egypt, Egypt was powerful. Now that many Hebrews are in America, Where's America? America's up there on top. Have you noticed? Yeah, because that's Abraham's seed is dispersed. And I'm going to show you some things that's going to prove that when God takes his people out of America, things are going to change. Because see, God goes where his people goes. And because it's universal that we reap whatsoever we sow, understand that that's universal, and that's with anybody, whether you're Hebrew or whether you're not. Whatever you do, and I know that there are just people that are doing pleasing God the best that they can. They're walking the best they can for God, and they stumble and fall. Why? Because you have an adversary out there just waiting for any opportunity to trip you up. So when you stumble and you fall, because he put a stumbling block there, God knows your heart. He's beaming right down at your heart. There's going to be some things I'm going to be kind of gaming with you. And it's going to be a show of hearts, never a show of hands, because this is between you and God. God looks at your heart, and it's not relevant whether I know or not, but it's something for you to know within yourself, where you are. And so I'm going to be giving you some little things just for you to think about, some little games just to test yourself periodically as we go through. And and if nothing else, you'll grow. That's all you'll do is grow. I mean, you know, I'm constantly growing. I will always grow and learn as long as I'm on this earth. Nobody will ever know it all. So don't concern yourself with trying to know it all. None of us ever will. But just understand that when a righteous man, it says a righteous man falleth 7 times and rises again. Well, God knows his heart. He knows that when he failed or when he sinned, it was not intentional. And so that even though that righteous man made a mistake or he failed or whatever, he repented, he got back humbly before the Lord, and he got back in God's good grace, started walking God's straight and narrow path again. But just because he got back up don't mean the devil's not going to try to trip him again. He's going to constantly be at you, trying to knock you down. Really, what he really wants you to do is just to get you so discouraged that you'll stop following God and turn to him. This is why I'm going to have to tell you how he operates. Because then you're going to understand why you can call on the name of Jesus and get results. We're going to learn how that happens. And you're going to learn it through this Bible. Because the Hebrew Israelites went through exactly what many Hebrews dispersed across the nations are going through right now as we speak. Following gods that are not our ancestors' God. So we're going to talk about a lot of things. But I want to get through Abraham because I've been trying to get through to him. Okay, through him. But it says, and in Abraham and his seed shall all families of this earth be blessed. Wherever we go, blessings follow. That land becomes a land that where it might have been down, because God is there. He will be there with us, you know, and we're going to learn so much. Okay, so Abraham departed. Okay, I don't want to read this part. Wait a minute. Okay, this is what it is. So Abraham departed as the Lord had spoken unto him. And Lot went with him, and Abraham was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. So Terah did take him to Haran. It says right here, and Abraham was 70 and 5 years old when he departed out of Haran. And that's where Terah took him, to Haran. Then it says, and Abram took Sarah his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran. And they went forth to go into the land of Canaan. So they did leave Haran where Terah took them, and then they went forth into the land of Canaan, which is modern day Israel. And into the land of Canaan they came. So I want to clear that up. That's not really a contradiction, because Terah took him into Haran, and from Haran, and I'm surprised somebody didn't catch that. I'm surprised somebody didn't write me a letter. You're not right. And then I'd have had them explain to me why I wasn't right and said, oh, you're so right. You are so correct. Because you would have been. Just as simple as that. You would have been. Okay, then, this is why I'm telling you not to follow man. Keep your eyes on God, because we are flesh. Even at our best, in our most sincere intentions, we're not perfect. So just keep in mind, do not follow after man. Okay, so now we're going to go back, we're going to go down to Abraham, where he asked God for a seed, because he doesn't, that's the main purpose of men. They want their seed to be left behind. And Abraham is no different than any other man. He wanted a son. So we're going to go and read about how Abram, I keep saying Abraham because I'm so used to saying Abraham, so please forgive me when I say Abraham or Sarah, but I'm so used to calling him Abraham. So, okay, we're going to start verse 2. Might as well read verse 1, 2. Okay. And I do have water on hand in case my throat gets a little dry. And then it says, after these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abraham in a vision. God will give you visions. He will give you knowings. He will make it, and you'll know if it's him because it'll be repetitious. If you dream the exact same dream 3 times, God is giving you a heads up about something. So pay attention. If you have a knowing and you can't even explain